Welcome to the Homegrown Heart Podcast. Dr. Amanda Ryan, DO, MBA, interventional cardiologist, and a recognized expert in that field. Now, this week's topic is surviving a public health survey. Help me welcome our host, Dr. Amanda Ryan.
Good morning, listeners from beautiful Carlsbad, New Mexico. It's a lovely August day where the heat might have let up a little bit to 95 instead of 109. Still pretty hot, but beautiful, sunny. Today we're going to talk about survey preparedness and how we really got from de novo ASC cardiology practice from scratch, again, flat in a mountain style, to where we are now in the past 2 years. So as part of that, a lot of exciting things to discuss about the concepts and what's really involved in a survey, how many steps in the process. And I think, lay people as well as medical people are going to have some interest in really understanding, how did you develop this? What are some of the regulatory requirements? Every field has a lot of regulatory guidelines, and medicine is obviously full of them. So trying to figure that out and really navigate it is very important. So again, thank you to everyone for the support for the last several weeks. Our podcast, we're growing in listeners. I've had a lot of feedback, which I really appreciate. One thing people want to know from last week's video, which they loved seeing the staff and the center, was again, who are the pandas and beavers and why are we animals and what do we have going on with that? So again, basically keeping up morale is very important in any environment, particularly when you're working 14 and 15-hour days and you're altering patients' lives. I try to tell the staff on a routine basis to remember that patients are very vulnerable when they come into a cardiology practice. And we really do have to do our very best to put our own personal selves, what we have going on outside, and even what we might have going on at work besides just the patient in front of us. Again, Karen's helped train a crop of 12 to 14 new medical assistants over the last 2 years, helped them get their certifications and get through the course. And as part of that, she always reminds them, and this is always a test question on the medical assistant test as well, which patient the phone is ringing, something on the computer, there's a patient in the computer that sent you a question, you have a patient in front of you checking out, needing to get set up for tests, and the doctor is telling you that they need you to do something. Not uncommon at any medical practice, let alone ours, that 4 things are coming at you at once. What is the most important thing? And the answer is always the patient in front of you. It is my belief and the mission of our practices that if we have a patient-centered practice where the patient in front of you is always the most important, that we will exceed at meeting our mission, which is truly to change the way that rural healthcare is delivered, particularly in the cardiovascular sector, in a way that meets the patient's needs to the best of our ability. As part of that, you will frustrate some other people, particularly the people on the phone. Yes, I get the feedback on the phone on a regular basis, as I've discussed, but you've got to focus on the person in front of you. So for that person in front of you to really stay where they need to be mentally so that they can care for you in your greatest time of need, morale boosting is important. And Stacy Slaughter, our ASC director, was talking about morale on one of our first few weeks of opening. We had 14 and 15-hour days already. There was not much of a ramp up in our surgical center. We had a lot of patients who were waiting for semi-elective procedures until we really got the doors open, got our initial approval from the state, and were ready to go. So we were 7-8 cases a day from the minute we opened the doors, which is really crazy. So as part of that, he discussed having a morning chant, a huddle, really to kind of say, let's do this. Let's stay positive. Let's leave anything at the door that might be heavy on our hearts that morning. And let's decide to take the best care of these patients we can. As part of that, the team decided to have a chant. Again, that was Go Beavers. Why do we pick beavers? Again, I'm not sure. I wasn't there. I'm just the queen beaver somewhere along the way. I don't know. My mom could be the queen beaver. I could. It just depends. And there's a lot of people. We actually trade on queen beaver in our facility. There's a lot of queens sometimes. So with that, became beaver shirts, beaver, a beaver with the queen crown, lots of different beaver stuff. And Colette, who really loves the beaver motto, she was upset when we shot a video that a lot of people at the practice talked to Perm, telling them, they were interviewing and doing fun stuff on a Friday afternoon one day, and Colette was out sick. So she went from bustling beaver to left out beaver. And so that's kind of where that beaver came from. And then the panda, again, Karen's helped train many new medical assistants, which is great. We have several people, different ages, from Eddy County that really have sought us out and obtained medical assistant knowledge and then certification over about a 6 to 8 month period at different times in the last 2.5 years. It's great for them. It's great to give them an opportunity, a career, a certification. It is also great for our area that's very lacking in medical staff. And like I said, training staff from here to the next level and next level is 100% our goal. It's what Partners in Heart Health supports. We are trying as hard as we can to get more qualified healthcare professionals in Eddy County. And what better thing to do than to reach out to our local community to find that young female who was a straight A student in high school who never had the resources or really the guidance to decide to go to college and further her education in the healthcare sector, but had an interest. It is really an amazing opportunity to be able to bring them into our practice, train them from the ground up, and watch them certification after certification as they grow. So that's really an amazing part of what we've got going on. So this new crop of medical assistants at one point was like, wait, so we're, there on the clinic side, rooming the patients, taking care of all your medication refills, and excited for everything we have going on in the surgical center, but they're on the clinic side. So they decide that they're pandas. And Mama Panda, who's Sol Rodriguez that works for us, they carry backpacks, most of them. Now they have little pandas for their backpacks and stuff. So then I kind of gave the beaver crew a hard time, but they don't have anything for their backpacks. So we're gonna have a pandas versus beaver competition at some point. It's gonna be like a mini Olympics, I think. Oh, way to go, Simone Biles, Team USA. By the way, that was exciting to watch us return to gold. And I'm excited. I think we could get a little aggression out at the practice if we could have a little bit of a beaver versus panda competition. So yeah, so there you have the animals. When you are preparing for a survey, again, you think about what kind of things you really, what does it mean to be survey ready? I've been in healthcare again for 25 years. I know I look so young, you might wonder how have I been in healthcare for so long, but nonetheless, here I am. I've really been in healthcare my entire life. As my mom, aunts, uncles all participated in running long-term care facilities, rehab facilities, and a kitchen table just like this, although quite large, made by our local Amish community in central Illinois. We would sit around this big, beautiful oak table at my grandparents and what became my parents' home, and discuss the week of healthcare in that long-term care and rehab sector. And I've probably been doing that since I was 12 and 13 years old. I did tell my mom, we used to have snow days at school, and most kids are thrilled for Midwest or Northern snow days. And not that I wasn't thrilled, but that would also mean that a lot of the staff might be snowed in their rural areas or unable to get to local nursing homes and facilities that my mom was a manager of. So therefore, she would load us up in the car. It would just be the semis and rescue workers as well as us in a station wagon or minivan, and we would go work and take care of the residents at facilities where staff couldn't get there because of the snow. There was not much that stopped Karen or any other member of my family from getting there. And I would be like, I think this is child abuse, child labor, there's got to be some law. She's like, who are you going to tell? And I was like, you're right, I'm just going to enjoy the experience. But my mother's an excellent housekeeper too. I don't know how she pulled it all off. I don't know how you be corporate Karen, mom of the year Karen, housekeeper of the year Karen. I mean, she did have a lot of help. My dad's amazing. Her sister, she does have a lot of support, but my mom really pulled a lot off. Slept 3 or 4 hours a night for most of my life. But as part of that, I really didn't get the complete neat freak. I want things really neat and clean, but like in the few hours free that I have, I just have a hard time focusing on getting, doing all my laundry and, cleaning all, making sure there's not a piece of dust in my house, which is something that my mom frequently does in her home. And my youngest sister, Nikki, I'll shout out to her. She did get that gene from my mom, so she does help keep their house immaculate now too, but at any rate. So on the immaculate house thing, when we would go to our local nursing homes and really help take care of the residents, which by the way was so rewarding, I have learned so much. I've sat with many farmer's wife in our local facility in Taylorville, Illinois, widowed, having lived through the Depression and so many different times, and just heard so many great stories. Many of them, again, focusing on spending quality time with your family, kind of giving, I'm a 12, 13, 14-year-old youngster, and these ladies are kind of guiding me at things that they would do in life. And of course, I'm trying to soak it all in. Looking back now, I realize how much insight they really had into life, and I try to live my own life in a way that I don't end up with so many regrets. And I can't say that they had regrets, but anyone reflecting on their life, I think there's always times when they say, and again, it's not usually that they wish they would have worked more. It's that they wish they would have spent more quality time with their family. Sometimes everybody tells you, don't blink, your kids will be grown, don't blink. But as my friend and financial officer, Nikki Cooper, said the other day, as her oldest daughter is kind of flying the nest, love you, Adriana, she blinked. And all of a sudden, she's 22 years old, and it's kind of crazy that it happens that fast. So balancing, again, work and home, that'll be a recurrent theme through all of our podcasts too, and how we really are giving it our best effort on that front. But all right, again, tying all that together, so I was assigned to make beds a lot of times during these snow days at the nursing facilities all over the Midwest. And they were expected to be Army corner military, and I never totally mastered that. And my mom would come by and be like, the corner's not appropriate. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, okay, let me work on that corner. But yeah, builds character. So that being said, so I've been a part of healthcare my whole life. That was the point of that rambling. And preparing for surveys, again, when I transitioned to more hospital roles, I've always participated. I think I told you guys, STEMI committees, ahead of the, medical executive. I've been chief medical officer. I've done all kinds, chief of staff, in these different roles. JACO, who is an outside accrediting body that represents the federal government, often giving you your accreditation, saying that you're meeting all the conditions that Medicare, which is again CMS, I'll use CMS, Centers for Medicare and Services, and Medicare interchangeably. They come in and say that you're really meeting all of these criteria. And wow, there are a lot of criteria. There are a lot of policies, a lot of rules, a lot of guidelines that come from your state level. Then they come from the Medicare. And there's also outside agencies that, can get involved. JACO has their own guidelines as well. If there's guidelines that are not, something doesn't match up exactly with something else, then it is quote unquote the strictest guideline of any organization that surveys you that you have to go with. So really trying to straighten out, again, how you should be doing things. In guiding a lot of different survey processes in the hospital, particularly, let's say, the cardiac catheterization lab, where I've been the director of at different times in my career, making sure that we do things, quote unquote, the right way every time for every patient. There are a lot of guidelines that are in place. We get this, like we have somewhat of an adversarial relationship with surveyors, and that's probably true somewhat in any industry. Our oil and gas industry around here, which I don't propose to be an expert of in any means, but I think when a surveyor comes to evaluate, let's say, the radiation at our WIP site, I'm sure there's sometimes you do kind of sit up a little bit and be like, okay, they're checking out our stuff. Let's make sure we have everything in order. But the same as I know our colleagues out there do, the same as I encourage us to do. Let's make sure we're doing things right every day, so we're not like surveys in the building. We have to act a certain way. We have to do things different. First of all, that's not fair to the staff, but it's not fair to the patient. The guidelines are there for a reason, and it's usually that they improve safety and quality outcomes. So a big part of survey preparedness then is these quality programs. Luckily for us, both our consultant as for our surgical center, as well as Karen Davidson, has participated in 1 million surveys over the years. As part of that, she really was able to help us the minute we got our surgical center up and running to be, quote unquote, survey prepared. I would like to tell you that we met all the requirements of documentation for every case from the first day that we opened. And we spent a lot of time getting to that point. But when I tell you that there are literally, I don't know, how many forms do you think there might be for a quick surgical procedure? I don't know. Maybe I think there's 10 forms or 15 forms that need to be filled out. I don't know, there's about 38, let's call it, so there's between 30 and 35 forms that need to be filled out for each patient for each procedure. Well, as part of, and on any given form, there could be 60 to 80 check boxes. There could be 5 to 7 places for signature, for time, for date. With all of that going on, it would be hard to think that you opened up 7, 8 cases a day, you did all those cases, and you never missed one thing on any of those forms. That you just uploaded it to the chart and you moved on and you were, quote unquote, survey ready. No. Instead, we created a Friday. At first, Karen was trying to review them all, and sometimes it's hard to look at all the documentation when you did a lot of the documentation. As the nurse, she did a lot of the documentation. As the physician, I did a lot of the documentation. And it's hard to look over what you did. Sometimes it's like reviewing your own term paper back in school. I used to be, can someone else read this 20-page paper on copper and inorganic chemistry that I'm still a little scarred about? But you can only look at your own documentation so much before it says what you think it should say, right? Kind of in your mind, you knew what you were trying to say. So I look over a form like, oh yeah, it looks good, it looks all there, So we decided, hey, we need several members of the team to kind of audit our charts. So we went through a training process of exactly what was required. Where are we getting these guidelines? We're on Medicare, we're on the state's website really reviewing these guidelines. You got to demystify the guidelines. You got to demystify your survey. What are the requirements and how are we going to meet them? And to take it on a deeper level, why are those requirements there and how do they help improve patient safety and outcomes? Surgical fires are a big deal in the surgical center. So we did a lot with fire preparation, with interacting with the fire marshal, with the city, with an emergency preparedness plan. And sometimes you're like, man, this is a brand new facility, and what are the odds that something happens? And already, but there have been surgical fires that have been devastating. That the egresses have to be clearly marked. We have to have a plan for if there was a fire, no matter how minimal, how can we get every staff and patient out safely? What are our plans? And so honestly, I appreciate that the state made sure that we had those things in place. I want to make sure if we have a fire that we can safely get everybody out. I appreciate the input from the fire marshal that you might move this here and this could be better there. All of that stuff is important. And it's important to have it in place before, God forbid, you ever actually did need to use that knowledge to get a patient and your staff to safety. So I think looking at surveys in a way that, again, the surveyors, they are there to partner with you to help make sure that you are meeting the criteria that will keep our patients safe and have the best outcomes possible. So, your quality assurance program, again, we started with training the staff who were going to review the chart so that they knew exactly what they were looking for. Then the team made a Friday night commitment to review all the charts from that week. So every Friday from about 3 until about 7 or 8 o'clock, and I got to tell you, it's a lot of times the last thing that anybody wants to do. I used to take Friday afternoons off back in the day. Shout out to my former self who used to rest on Friday afternoon. Now, I still worked the weekend, but sometimes you're just like mentally fried. You just need a break. Again, that's adulthood. You work Friday is the same as every other day, and you work on your birthday. Those are my I think I'm really an adult now kind of moments. So anyway, back to the QA. So 3 to 7 o'clock on Friday night or 8 o'clock until done, all the 15 to 25, 30 cases for the week that had been performed were reviewed by everybody and reviewed to make sure that we had met all those criteria, that we identified anything that we needed to do better, that and the state really, when they did come and survey us from both a state and federal level, all the surveyors were very impressed of our already aggressive QA program. But again, don't be afraid to self-evaluate. You only get better by self-evaluation. Sometimes as an interventional cardiologist, I have outcomes while doing emergency procedures that are not the outcome that I would hope for. And as part of that, and I think I've discussed a little bit before, sometimes you have to walk out of a case, you have to talk to a family with really the worst news that anybody can get about a loved one. And then you have to regroup your staff and be on call for the next emergency. There have literally been times when we have had 4, 5, 6 emergency cases in one day. With that being said, how do you be human and process what happened, what you did, how things went, but then be ready to help the next person too? And it is a challenge sometimes. It really is. But as part of that, you've got to self-evaluate. I am an experienced interventional cardiologist. I have probably done as many emergency cases as anyone at this point in their career. I took call 30 days out of 30, as I stated, back in Florida and out here for years on end. As part of that, I have done a lot of emergency cases. And I've been in situations where I was the only option, that I could not safely get somebody to a higher level of service, and I had to do what I could do. And as part of that, every outcome is not the outcome I wanted. And realizing that you've got to make yourself vulnerable to remain human, you also have to do it so you can get better. As a physician, we train for years on end, and I talked about that in the last podcast. There's a lot of training. It's years on end. You do tons of cases. Again, I did 1,000 cases in my training. 250 were required interventions. I did 1,000. I couldn't wait to be on my own, mid-30s, tired of an attending physician, quote unquote, telling me what to do every day and handling stuff when it got hard. And, I was ready. Whew. Those first 50 cases, and it's funny, one of my junior attendings had said to me, those first 50 cases, you're going to figure it out. And I was like, okay. I wasn't cocky, but you're just ready. first couple times that a case was really difficult to cross, a difficult blockage, and I'd use several wires, different catheters. I couldn't get across it. I was looking around for my attendings like, who's going to help me? And nobody. Nobody was going to help me. I did have a great partner, again, who would always step in. But I'm being honest, those first 50 cases, I had good outcomes. But looking back, the cases might have taken me 3 and 4 hours, which, that same case might take me an hour, hour and a half now. So, and how did I get from something taking 3 or 4 hours to taking an hour to hour and a half? I self-evaluated. Peer review evaluated me. My staff evaluated me. They evaluated us. We talked about what we could do different. There's a lot of times that we review a case and there's nothing that probably would have changed the outcome. That doesn't mean that there isn't an opportunity to process improve within that. And again, in healthcare, we have a little bit of a contentious relationship with law. My sister's an attorney, but I do still talk to her sometimes. No, I'm just kidding. This idea of like, are you going to get sued? And do you have to order a test so you don't get sued? And malpractice rates. And again, that'll be a whole discussion. But we cannot let fear of being sued or exposing weakness or any of those things really prevent us from doing healthy quality assurance programs. Now, again, there's politics involved in all different sectors. There's politics in healthcare. I mean, it does happen at some institutions, let's say, if Dr. A and Dr. B are both competing to do a certain procedure at an institution. Dr. B happens to be on the peer review committee. He might be tempted at times to over critically analyze Dr. A's work with a secondary motive or intention. And I would like to say doctors are above that kind of stuff and those kind of things don't happen, but the truth is we're human and sometimes people do have ulterior motives. So we try very hard to keep our processes objective and make sure we go through list of how to review things, that we don't have doctors in direct competition, quote unquote, reviewing each other's cases, so that we are getting a very unbiased. Taking the bias out of healthcare is a podcast in and of itself. So really trying to make sure that we do those quality assurance kind of plans. So again, developing a detailed survey preparedness plan. We divided up different parts of the guidelines. We had different members of the team. Summer Gonzalez, you're going to handle this. Alvin DePorto, you're going to handle this. So we had regular meetings where we said, okay, what are we going to do in this arena? What do we need to learn on this? Where are we with the facility part of things? That are involving all staff in the process. My mom used to say, again, the last thing you want to do is have a surveyor go ask a staff member something, and it's like, a basic question about, what is your basic hand washing policy? And they say, I don't know, the boss deals with that, the administrators do that. No, everybody does that. Survey preparedness includes ground level approach to how you get things ready. One step at a time, we all work together, and everyone on the team. Again, what comment did we get a lot at our facility about our housekeeping? That place sparkles, and of course it's brand new, and it's expensive, and it sparkles, but it can get dirty very quickly, and it gets cleaned multiple times a day. Last night, I left at 11 o'clock at night, and our cleaning crew was still there, making sure they got every speck of dust that they could out of that facility on a nightly basis. And that really, but again, it may not mean the capabilities of your physician, but having your care and surgical procedures provided in a facility that maintaining a sterile environment and complete cleanliness are goals. I mean, I know that I'm competent to do the procedure. I have privileges at hospitals to do the procedure. I've been doing this for 25 years. Yes, I'm competent to do the procedure, but you still don't really want to do your procedure somewhere that isn't meeting the quality, safety, sterile, cleanly, all of those guidelines. So I think that's gonna wrap up my portion. We're gonna have a lot of interviews this week as well from different members of our team as far as a little more details on survey. I hope this gave you kind of a good introduction to how we approached our survey, and we'll keep letting you know how the process moves forward. I'll see you next week.
So who do we have here?
Alvin DePorto.
Alvin DePorto. And what is your title, and what exactly do you do here with the ASC?
I'm the PACS administrator. I'm an X-ray tech. A little bit of everything here at the ASC.
Okay. So you say you're an X-ray tech and a PACS administrator. So you're doing a lot with radiology. What does that consist of?
Yes, sir. So radiology in the cath lab here at our facility, we use that to basically see the heart when Dr. Ryan injects the contrast through the vessels. So radiology plays a big role in that.
Okay. And I've been going around speaking to all of our team. We recently passed our state certification survey with the state, and that was a big deal. So congratulations to you and the rest of the team. A lot of that had to deal with safety and facility issues. Can you kind of dwell on that or expand on what that kind of consists of in your day-to-day?
Yeah, so we come in, first things first, before we get started with patients, we have to make sure that we're operating, temperature-wise, humidity-wise in our facility, in our operating rooms or cath lab rooms. So that's one of the first things that we check. Of course, making sure our equipment's running, working correctly. We got X-ray working correctly, and we do a little quick check of temperatures, humidity. So we just kind of do a quick run through of anything in that could come up during any of the procedures. So we want to make sure that.
And you're talking specifically the labs themselves, right?
Right. Yes,
okay.
Sir. Yeah.
All right. And any other like safety issues or any facility processes that you're involved with that you would like to talk about?
Yeah, I make sure that radiology is a big safety, in our facility, making sure that the techs are wearing, the proper equipment, PPE for, while we're doing procedures. So we need to make sure that we have our lead vests, lead thyroid shields. We also make sure that we're being monitored by our badges, which I think I took mine off for the day already. We're done with procedures.
Okay.
But dosimetry badges, we're, safety first, so we want to make sure we're not getting exposed too much to the radiation that, flying around the room. So, on a day-to-day, that type of safety is what I deal with.
Okay, well, it sounds like you got your hands full here at Advanced Ambulatory Surgical Center of Carlsbad. I do want to thank you for all your help, your wealth of knowledge, your support with me and, helping out with the IT stuff. And just say congratulations to you, me, and the rest of the team for passing our states. And is there anything else you want to say to the people?
Absolutely. Thank you, too. I love working here. A great group of people. Dr. Ryan has given me a great opportunity to work here, and it's a great facility and opportunity for patients to come here and get Class A treatment, and provide great service here.
Well, thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Who do we have here?
My name's Summer G.
Summer G. And what do you do here, Summer G?
I'm the Senior Director of Operations.
Okay. So as far as what does that all entail?
That includes scheduling of the staff. That includes all the patient schedules, ultrasound schedules. That includes the day-to-day running of the office and the ASC.
Okay. And speaking of the ASC, we just recently passed our state survey.
Yay.
So congratulations to you and everyone that worked hard in that.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about that as far as how that process went.
Well, we had been waiting for 5 months, I think, for the state to show up. and we had news that they were going to show up at some point, so we were kind of on alert. And I had just got finished dealing with a disgruntled patient, and I was in the window kind of contemplating
Life.
shedding a few tears.
Right.
And through my tear-filled eyes, I see the state car driving up, and I was like, okay, showtime. So I dried my tears and greeted them and said, okay, let me go tell the team. So I told everybody they were coming, and they came in, they looked at the entire building, they looked at all our processes, they checked all our state binders to make sure that we had all the regulations in place, and we passed.
It was a pretty stressful experience, but we did pass.
Yes, yeah, I learned a lot. Karen, who's our survey extraordinaire, really helped us and taught us a lot through the process, and we passed with flying colors.
Great, great. Tell me about one of our major vendors is Philips. What are some of the things that we do with Philips, and how has that relationship been?
Yeah, Philips is the company that most of our equipment is from for the ASC. We've dealt with a few different departments from Philips that have taught us how to use their equipment from the front to the back of the ASC. So we've worked with the pre and post area Philips director, and then we've dealt with the ASC that deals with the C-arm in the cath lab, the monitoring system, which is called Expert.
Right.
They've cut out a lot of time to meet with us, to do a lot of education with us, and it's been great.
So they're kind of helping guided us along to being a successful practice.
Yes, most definitely. They've, as much as we've put in time with them, they've put in that time back with us.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all that you do here, Summer G. Thank you for your time. Anything else you want to say to the people?
Come see us.
All right. Heart health out. Whom do we have the pleasure of speaking with today?
Desiree.
Hi, Desiree. What do you do here at Advanced ASC?
I am the prior authorization manager. I am a medical assistant, cath lab scrub, and I clean here.
Oh, so you wear many, many hats, huh?
Sure do.
All right, let's talk about, let's break that down. Tell me about the cath lab scrubbing.
I joined the cath lab about 8 months ago. We've been training with Stacy every Monday. Finally able to scrub on my own. Well, not completely, but sort of.
And how was that an extensive process? Was it hard?
Definitely hard.
Yeah.
Definitely hard, but fun.
Good.
Yeah.
Let's talk about prior authorization. You are a veteran in that. A lot of the go-to person for a lot of people. How's that process?
It's challenging at times. Insurances can be hard, but I enjoy it. I love a challenge, and I am pretty good at what I do.
Yes, you are. I can agree. And you said that you are cleaning here at the facility. A lot of people may overlook that, but that's a very important aspect of any business. Tell me how that works and some of the things that you do as far as the cleanliness of the building.
So Dr. Ryan asked me if I wanted to clean the office. So I've been cleaning for her for the past year or two. We moved here, and she wanted somebody who would really take pride in our facility and keep it clean. So my family and I started cleaning for her, a couple years ago, and here since we've been here, just keeping it nice and sterile, infection-free.
Which is very, very important for the health and welfare of our patients and our employees. So we do appreciate you and your family for doing that. As you can see from a bit of the background, it's a very clean, very up-to-date modern facility. And we just want to, provide a place for all of the community to come and have procedures and feel comfortable. So we do thank you for that.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Also, the last thing.
My customer service is A game.
Yes. I'm glad you said that because I had a brain fart on what I was about to ask you. With you being bilingual, which is an asset out here in southeastern New Mexico, you are one of the people that have great rapport with our patients. Can you speak or expand a little bit on that?
Yeah, well, I am bilingual, not very fluent. I understand more than I can speak, but I can sure get it going, get it moving in the right direction, and to make an understanding out of what's needed. But we moved here about 17 years ago from El Paso, so my Spanish was a lot better then. Of course, when you move here to Carlsbad, I don't use it as much.
Right.
So with our patients, it does come in handy. It's just a little hard to say the medical terminologies for me, but that's what I use Google for.
Well, I want to thank you for being such a great team player. Thank you for your wealth of knowledge. Always willing to help, and I'm quite sure everyone else feels the same. So we do appreciate you being a part of our team. And like I said, I just want to thank you for you being you.
You're welcome, Perm.
All right, have a great one.
You too.
And action. Who do we have here?
Karen Davidson.
Hello, Karen Davidson. What do you do here at Advanced ASC?
I'm the Director of Nursing for the ASC, and I'm the Infection Control Nurse.
Okay, infection control. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Well, dealing with patients, it's really important that we don't spread infection or do anything that causes our patients to get an infection.
Gotcha. And we, as I've been going around speaking to all of the other teammates, we recently passed our state survey, and you were a big part of that process. Could you explain a little bit more about your role and how that went?
Well, I've done a lot with the state agencies throughout my 45-year career. That was really my job, is interfacing with the state agencies. So for me, it's just sort of old home week. But it's a lot of, there's a lot of regulations, a lot of things you have to do. And, it's just maintaining that excellence that we try to do every day. The survey process is pretty much the same as what I dealt with in my former roles. A lot of it is showing the surveyors what you're doing and answering their questions and giving them timely responses. They have a job to do, we have a job to do.
Okay. You said that you've done this before. You've 45 years of service. How does this team that you're working with now compare to some of your others?
It's refreshing to have a team. They're new to a survey process. They've all had a lot of experience in other things, but most of them are new to this type of survey process. They're eager to learn. They want to learn. And, it's fun to have people that want to do it.
Right. And could you tell me about quality assurance?
So quality assurance is basically self-policing. You identify that you may or may not have a weakness in this area, and you put plans in place to correct the weaknesses. So it's self-identifying your problems before someone else has to tell you that you have a problem.
Gotcha. That sounds like a lot of back-end work that a lot of people don't realize goes into running facilities like this.
Exactly. I mean, things go wrong, and it's how you deal with them that's important.
Right. Well, I just want to thank you for all of your help, your guidance, your mentorship for me and others on this team. We couldn't have done it without you. Is there anything else you want to say to the people?
No, just super proud of the team. They all did a great job. And, it's a beautiful facility, doing great things. And, I think the surveyors were great to work with. It was very collaborative. And, just look forward to the future.
All right, you guys come see us. Thank you, Karen.
Thanks, John Tay.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wacker, and I am the Director of Marketing, Outreach, and Communications here at Advanced Heart and Vascular Center of New Mexico. Part of my job responsibilities here is to make sure that we're in touch with the community and our patients. One of my big jobs that I do is after people have different type of procedures here, I contact them, whether it's 1, 2, even 3 weeks later, just to see how their experience was here at our clinic and our surgical center. It's nice because we get to hear different things, different feedback. We want to make sure that that experience from the moment they walk in the building and even have their appointment set to even after when they're coming back for their follow-up appointments is at the top level. We're striving to be a center of excellence, so we want to go a little bit further than just taking that information down. And because when we are visited yearly by surveyors from the public health system, they're going to look to make sure that we are getting that feedback, but we want to take that feedback and go even just a little step further. As an example, we recently have heard just from several people that we schedule our appointments as early as 6 a.m. in the morning. And when I've called and I've contacted and said, hey, how did everything go? One of the concerns was, well, I was really afraid and anxious because my appointment was at 6. What if something happened? Who could I get a hold of? Would there be somebody there that early? And so what we did was we took that feedback, we purchased a cell phone so that we do have that available when we're calling, when we're making those appointments, and when we're getting people ready and prepared for that day. We're telling them, here's a cell phone number that you can call that morning as early as you need to ask those questions, and we will be available for you. Again, our goal is to make sure that we're taking that community feedback that we get, and we're actually taking it, putting it into action. And this was one of the great ways to do that.
That's awesome.
Right.
It says you're also the community outreach and community partnerships. You do a lot of work with that for the company. Do you have any events or anything coming up in the near future?
We do. We have a couple of events coming up in September. We've got 2 Heart Walks. We've got one in Roswell on the 14th of September and one in Hobbs. And that's with a local nonprofit, Expecting Hearts. That is on September 21st. And then we have our large casino night for Partners in Heart Health. That's for September 14th. That's Saturday evening.
Can't wait for the casino night. Well, thank you, Tammy, for your time. We appreciate everything that you do here for us at Advanced Heart and Vascular Center of New Mexico.
All right. I love doing it.